Hey guys and girls, thanks for coming along today. I'm Scott Moyse from Cabra Systems in New Zealand, who are an Autodesk Gold partner. We've been working with Fusion 360 at Cabra for a long time, from the very beginning of its current form, but also when it was called Inventor Fusion, like 7 years ago. We were mucking about with it. So today I'm going to be covering Fusion 360's top 40 tips. So I hope you get some value out of it. We've got a lot to get through, so I'm just going to rip into it. So some fundamentals. 95% of the time you should be creating a new component inside Fusion 360. Your timeline replaces what you may be familiar with as a browser from Fusion, from Inventor or any other CAD product that you may have used in the past. And those features get owned by components. So you need to make sure you create components the vast majority of the time. There's two ways to create it. You can right click on the top node, new component. It's a quick way to do it. Or if you click the new component command on the ribbon, then it pops up a little dialog, which you'll see later on. There are some keyboard shortcuts inside Fusion. As you move around the user interface, you'll see them letters next to the command, so you can learn them that way. There's also a keyboard shortcut sticker sheet, and that covers all of the current keyboard shortcuts that exist today. When you're creating sketches, you have the sketch palette which appears, and at the top section of the sketch palette there's a whole bunch of modifiers. So as an example, when you create a rectangle, you can choose to switch between different rectangle modes. You can create construction geometry, which excludes that geometry from profile selections for extruding, sweep, revolve, and all the rest of it. Show constraints is an important checkbox. When you've got complex sketches with a whole heap of objects on them, it can get quite noisy. So if you turn that off, all of those constraint glyphs will disappear. But if you do want to see some of them, then when you highlight objects, it will display the constraints just for those highlighted objects. If you find that you can't select an extrusion at some point, or a profile to do something with, then it's probably because show profiles turned off, so just be aware of that. New users will often kind of struggle with 3D navigation, and even experienced users, that you lose your model off the screen or whatever. So to get it back into view, if you double click your middle mouse button, or if you've got a 3-button mouse like this 3D Connection wireless CAD mouse, just double click the middle mouse button and it will zoom extents back to the center of your screen. The Fusion team totally stole this off SolidWorks, and glad they did. It's a great command. It's also better than the SolidWorks version because they added a search bar. It's context sensitive, so if you're in a sketch, you get a sketch toolbox. If you're in the model workspace, you get a model toolbox. Patch, you get a patch toolbox. Cam, you get a cam toolbox, so on and so forth. So you search for commands, and just like you do in the normal drop-down menus inside Fusion, this little arrow, curved arrow appears when you hover over a command, which allows you to add the command to the toolbox. If you want to remove a command from the toolbox, you just click and drag it off. Standard type window stuff. So yeah, really handy command to get used to using. Midpoint dimension is something that you end up using a lot once you've used it a few times. But there's cases inside Fusion where it doesn't display, so most notably with dimensions, sometimes with constraints as well. So you just hold down Shift and that will allow you to snap to the midpoint of an arc or a line. Often inside Fusion you'll find, and new users struggle with this a lot, that behavior isn't exactly what you expect while you're in a command or performing some other task. So get into the habit of hitting escape to cancel any active commands, and just left click a few times in free space on the background to make sure that any objects that are selected that you can't see are now deselected, and then it will then just restart the command and try again. Tangent dimension, also another really useful feature that they added recently. It was very welcome. They've buried the option for it in the context menu, which is kind of annoying, but that's why I'm telling you I've got to put it in a tip. So yeah, with the dimension command active, you just right click and turn on the tangent option. Really important aspect of parametric or history based design is using parameters. So every dimension you create as a parameter, or you can create custom parameters from the parameters dialog. So when you create a dimension or an extrusion or something, you don't have to type in a value, a numerical value. You can select, in this case, another dimension, or you can type in the name of a parameter you've created. Now, once you've created one like that, the dimension value will be prefixed with an fx with fx. Okay, so you can see that it's driven by a parameter. Now in this case, I've made the top left dimension equal to the bottom right. You can use the mathematical operators that I've displayed on screen, but there's also a web page in the help file which has a list of a whole heap of scientific operators that you can use to do some pretty complex calculations. Now the idea of all of this is to build design intent. So when you're designing something, you have an intention that it may change in some way, or it's a configurable design. So this is where you make sure that that stuff happens. So last year, if any of you are here, I showed the CXP Racing chainring. So I used parameters and formulas to allow Bruno to type in the number of teeth he wants for a chainring. And there we go. Okay, select other is also another kind of hidden away feature inside Fusion, but is fundamental for successful use of, or satisfactory use of the product. So with 3D modeling, often you want to be able to select objects which are inside or behind other objects. So to access that inside Fusion, you just move your cursor to where you think that object is that you want to select, left click and hold, and this dialog will appear. Now depth will allow you to select things that are occluded by others in the background. And then parents will allow you to select the parent objects of the object you've selected. So if you've selected an edge, it will display the feature that that edge belongs to, the body that feature belongs to, and the component that body belongs to, and so on. The control keyboard modifier is fundamental as well inside Fusion. You use it in all sorts of different places for selections. In this case here with a fillet command or a chamfer command, once you've made your initial selection and move off into different areas of the dialog, if you decide you want to change those selections, you have to hold down control and it will kind of reactivate the selection. And the same applies if you have completed the fillet command and you want to edit it later and add or remove. So you use the control key to do that. A common issue is the way that the orientation people start modeling stuff in, that the lighting environment or the lighting direction doesn't match the direction of their model. So in this case here, Z is up, but the light is coming from the side. So there's some cues on the view cube there as well, because you can see the shadow at the bottom of the view cube and it aligns with the shadow that's turned on in the modeling environment. So in this case here, I'd have to select that top face, look at that top face, so I can see the slots. And my camera is normal to that, then right click on the view cube and set that to top. Okay. The orbit wheel, again another fundamental user interface element that is often misunderstood. It's hard to see inside Fusion, unfortunately. I've made it a lot clearer in this graphic, but there's a circle and some axes and crosshairs. So if you select either of the vertical lines, then the model will rotate around the horizontal axis. The horizontal lines will rotate around the vertical axis. If you select the circle, then it will rotate around the axis normal to your screen. And then anywhere inside that circle is a free orbit and it can just roll around all over the place. But often people end up left clicking out in the periphery of this tool, and that will actually continue on from orbiting, so it cancels the orbit command. So that can be kind of confusing for new users. So there we go. Now you know. Every time you hit save inside Fusion, it creates a version. So if you're connected to the internet, then it will upload one of those versions. It also asks you for a comment for each version you create. Now, if you're only saving just to, you're worried about Fusion crashing or something like that, then you don't have to actually create a version. So if you do Control-Shift-S, it creates a recovery save, which is cased on your C drive. And then when you close the document, it will prompt you to create a version. You can also then just save at any other point in time and it will ask you for a comment. So you might get to a specific point in your design where you want to capture a backup of that online and create a version. Alright, so it's a handy little thing to know about. In the data panel, each design has got a little V number down in the bottom right hand corner. If you click on that, you get a whole bunch of extra details. So you can open that design in a web browser if you want. You can see all the different versions. You can see comments tied to each version. You can promote old versions to the current version, and you can open older versions. You've also got the uses used in the drawings tab. So the uses tab shows you which, if you've referenced in or extracted in other designs, it's going to show you those under there. But then used in is going to show where this design is used by other designs, and then drawings lists the if there's any drawings of this particular design. Alright, so there's some preferences that are handy to know about, so we'll cover those now. And to get to the preferences, under your name, if you click on the drop down and go to preferences, then you can access all this stuff. So material, if you're always designing aluminium parts or always design plastic parts, then you can just switch over to those in here, and then every new design you create will have that material and its associated appearance automatically applied to it. Under the general tab here, you can change from Y up to Z up. So you can see in the background here at the moment, by default the new document has got Y up in space and Z across, which is part of the reason why the lighting environment ends up being wrong for most people. So you can switch to Z up, and the next time you create a new document, the Z will point up. Alright, so modeling, let's get started. When you're creating a line, you can also create arcs in the line command. You don't have to exit out of the line command to create arcs, so I'll show you how that's done now. So we create a new sketch, and we're going to go with, on the XZ plane, and alpha line, we'll zoom out a bit, and click once, click twice. If I click a third time, it's going to create a second line. If I come back to the endpoint here, click and hold, then I can drag arcs off from that. I'm going to go up in this case, release to place the endpoint, and then move up and snap on to another point for my second line. Now you can see here that these two objects are tangent to one another, but there's no tangency between these two lines here. So if I click the arc and then hold down Control and click the line, when I right click I get a concise list of constraints, and I can choose tangent, and now there's a tangent constraint between the two. To kind of repeat that filtering, if I hold down Control and select the origin and that line, I can see in the sketch palette here that my constraints have been filtered out to only show the ones that I can apply. Alright, so now I'm going to dimension. I'm going to start applying some dimensions to this stuff. I'm going to go with 120 on the radius, and we'll go with 120 on that one, and we'll go with 150 on this one here. There we go. So all your sketches should always be all black, which means they're fully constrained. If we stop that sketch and have a look under the sketches folder here, we can see that there's a little drawing pin icon on here which confirms that as well. I'm going to create a plane along path on here now and make sure it's right on the end, so it's 0. And now I can create a sketch on that plane, and we're going to press C for circle and create a 180 mil circle and offset it in 10 mils to give me the wall of my pipe. So now we can go to create, and we're going to sweep that profile there along this path, and we're creating a new body. But I made a mistake. I didn't create a new component first, so there is a way of rectifying that. So there's two ways of doing it. You can, because it's created a body, I can right click on that body and create a component from that, but that doesn't assign ownership of the sketches and features that created that body to that new component, which isn't ideal. I mean, it's fine sometimes, but it's not ideal for a timeline organization. So there is another method of kind of saving the situation. So if we create a new component, you can see here that gives us that dialog, and I don't want that one to be active. I'm going to go back up to the top level and activate that one. And the important thing here is to drag that component to the beginning of the timeline. Once you've done that, you can highlight the two sketches which own all the features you want to belong to that component, and drag them down onto it, and now you can see the sketch folder has disappeared inside, or not disappeared, has moved inside this component here, which is exactly what we want. Right, so I'm going to activate this component again now and have a look at the next step. Alright, so I've talked a lot about bodies and components so far, but really what are the differences? Well, bodies have a type. So you can have solid bodies, surface bodies, T-spline bodies, or freeform sculpt bodies, and mesh bodies. Bodies can be organized into folders, and bodies do not move with respect to their parent origin. So bodies are always inside a component, and components have origins. So when you model a body, it's locked in space relative to that component's origin, or its component's origin. You can apply materials to bodies, but I don't know why you'd want to, because you should be applying materials to components. And component benefits, the fundamental part of components, two fundamental things are you're creating structure and you can define movement with joints. So joints only work with components. You can create drawings easily of individual components. Now, part of building a structure is creating part numbers or assigning part numbers and other properties, descriptions and materials. And all of that is with the aim of creating a structured bill of materials so that the people in the workshop know how to put your design together, and the purchasing department knows what to order, and so on and so forth, and you can schedule things and track things and all that good stuff. Components can have multiple occurrences, so you can have quantity 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of a specific component, and you can save out components to a new design, which also means that you can insert designs into other designs, and that can only be done with components. As I mentioned before, components have an origin, and a few times now I've mentioned that activating components will help you manage your timeline. Alright, so let's have a look at the delete faces command. So I'm going to mirror this body now. I'm inside this component, it's active, so I can create a mirror, and I'm going to mirror this feature here, the sweep, about this mirror plane, and there we go. So we've got two components, two bodies in here at the moment. So now I want to combine them into one body, so I'm going to combine that one with this one. I'm not going to keep the tools, I want to make sure it's a join. Okay, so now I've got one body, but I've just plugged that hole in my pipe, so I need to get rid of that. So I'm going to hold, if I just select these faces, then it's, each time I select a new one, it's resetting the selection. So I need to hold down Control on my keyboard to select multiple faces, and it's important that I delete all these faces at the same time, because they all cap off the hole I want to expose. So once I've got them selected, I can press delete on my keyboard. Now I've got a hole going all the way through, and it's automatically stitched everything back up into a solid, which is amazing, and I have a delete face node in my timeline now as a record of it. So that's a really powerful little command. So component coloring, kind of touched on it already. To turn it on, you can access it from down here. I've got it turned on already because you can see the colors in my timeline down here and the colors on in my browser, and they all correspond, right? Okay, paste is new. So this is the T-pipe, so we're going to create a new component with a flange. So if I right click new component, we'll call this the flange, and now I can, in Fusion, because of the way it's designed, I can just right click on here and create a sketch. We'll capture that position, and I don't get any of the overhead issues and performance issues associated with adaptivity inside Inventor, for example. So I'm going to go 35, and I'm going to extrude out that profile and that profile 15 mils, and yeah, we'll do that. We'll just leave that as it is. So now we can come back to the top level here, and if I turn on component coloring, I can see that I've got two new components in here. Copy, paste, move this up here. We'll rotate it -90. I'm going to go from this point to this point here. So we've got quantity 2 now of that flange. But we can also use paste as new. So if I right click on the component I want it to insert into and go to paste as new, it actually creates an additional instance, an additional copy. So I'll rotate that around 180 and position that into place. There we go. So now you can see, confirmed by the color here, that we've got a new version of that flange. It's actually got its own features inside it and everything. So if we want to, I'm going to want to put some holes in this flange now, and I'll show you the extrude, cut, exclude options. So if I create a sketch on here, I'm going to capture that position, and draw a circle. Here we'll go over a 20mm circle. I want to make sure that it's horizontal, vertical to the center point here, and we're going to dimension between here, dimension tangent between there and there, make that 10mm. Now we can extrude that particular hole through all. Cut, flip the direction. And what's going to happen here is it's actually going to cut through that other component as well. So we can expand out the objects to cut and turn off that, exclude that flange from it. And then we can see that that's not put that hole through there. So we're going to use the S key here and look for the circular pattern. And we're going to pattern this face 4 times around the center here. Okay, and then finish this component. We'll go back up and activate the top level, and we can see that that copied flange has got the 4 holes on it. So we can actually come in here now and edit this flange, and we can extrude, cut through here now using the sketch from the original flange. So if we expand out that flange, expand out the sketches, turn that sketch on, extrude, we can then use the start from object and pick the face on this component. We'll just start it off that way and then go through to object for the extent, and there we go. So now we can use again the circular pattern. We'll pick that face, pick the axis, and we'll just have 3 on that one. And come back up to the top level, activate that component, and there we have it. So we've got very quickly, based off of the same component, 2 different components which are completely independent of one another. Alright, let's see where we're at in the slides. So now we're paste as new, and extruded from, again, materials and appearances. Fusion has a huge library. There's a lot to go through. Once you've found the materials that you use most often, you can right click on them, all the appearances, and add them to a favorites library. So then you can easily filter and get a concise list by switching the library over to favorites. Alright, so best practice when you're creating assemblies inside Fusion is at the top level to have one component that's rigidly joined to the parent origin. Okay, so I'll show you how to do that now. We'll go into a data panel here and open up our ball joint. Here's one I prepared earlier. We'll turn that component coloring off. And if I turn on my origin here and grab this component, you can see that I can move it relative to the origin. Alright, so I need to tie that down, and to do that I can use a joint. I can pick the first component, make sure I'm picking the sphere here and the origin coins at the center there, and then for my second component input I can pick the origin of the parent component here, and it's rigid, and there we go. So now if I try and move this, I can't, it's locked down. Right, so we're going to use paste as new again, and create another instance, another copy of this component. I'll just orbit it around, rotate it around and move it out of the way. There we go. So we'll call this female ball joint. Home, female. There we go. And I'm going to use my materials now. I'm going to right click and go and check out my favorites, and under my favorites I have some polycarbonate clear. I'll apply that to that component. Alright, so project body is a pretty cool command. So if we edit this, activate this component and create a sketch on that plane there, we'll capture the position. If I press P for project and then select this face and project that face, then I end up with that line just that one edge, which isn't what I need. I need to be able to get the kind of silhouette of this. So if I press P again, turn on bodies and pick the body, then I get the whole lot appear, which is awesome, because then I can create a rectangle in here and start tying it down to the kind of silhouette of that model. I'm going to use midpoint here, actually, midpoint of that to here. Locks that down. Now I can go D for dimension, right click, use that tangent again, pick up on here, we'll make that 5 mils. So that's automatically locked that down on this side because I use a midpoint constraint. Now I can dimension from here, go back to tangent again, pick up on this point, and then use this dimension as my value, so they're tied together, and there's that FX I was talking about earlier on. So now I can extrude both of these profiles here, and I'm going to extrude 2 sides through all on the first side, through all on the second side, and I'm going to do a cut, and that's it, all done. Right, so I'm happy with that. Now what I can do is now create a ball joint between here and here. Alright, now we're starting to create the assembly. Fusion will start asking us to capture the position, because joints appear in the timeline, so assemblies have history inside Fusion. I'm just going to turn off this first ball joint. I'm going to use the press pull command, so I'll press Q to pick that face, and I'm going to go up to 44 mil. It's going to be 2 mil thick all the way around. Turn back on my ball joint, and I'm going to use the move command. Move components, and move this component. To pick my origin, actually, set pivot at the center here, and I'm going to rotate. Oh, you've got to apply your pivot, and now I can rotate my component. I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees up to here. So now we've got this interference. Alright, so we can use the combine command and capture the position, and we're going to subtract from this, and we're going to use that as the tool body. We're going to cut it out, and we want to keep the tool because we want to keep this. Right, so now we've got this cut out in here. If we use the move components again, I'm going to pick up on here, I'm going to rotate it back to -90, I'm going to rotate it around the other way now, 90, okay, and do the combine again, and this time we'll capture the position, target body, tool body, keep the tools, cut. This time it's going to cut based on that position, and so we've got this history being built up through here of the positions. So it's pretty powerful being able to use the component in different positions to create model features. Now if I was to come in here and now turn on contact sets and create a new contact set between these two components, I now have the ability to manipulate this position, rotate it around, and it just snaps into place, but it won't interfere with itself, which is pretty cool. Alright, so we'll just go back to that position, we'll turn off our contact sets, and yeah, there we have it. Alright, so that is a really powerful feature of Fusion that's quite unique. We'll go back to the correct repeat last command. I should show you that quickly. Yeah, if you do anything in here, you can right click and repeat, so there's no active command here at the moment for some reason, but you can also, in any of these menus here, you can use gestures, so you can click and hold in that general direction. So repeat command is right click and sweep up, so it's a pretty quick way, once you get used to it, of repeating your commands. Alright, rendering. So I'm not going to go into the rendering workspace, but once you're in there, you've got this gear icon up here. If you click on that, you're able to lock the view. So once you've got the view in position and you've started rendering, open this up, turn on lock view, so if you knock your model in any way, it doesn't restart the in-canvas rendering. This little light icon here is how you get through to the scene settings. And in here you can enable depth of field and set a center of focus and then a blur. 0.1 is a really good kind of like general setting, but you adjust that value based on the size of your model so you get the right amount of blur. So it adds a huge amount of realism to your renderings. So you should definitely be using it, and that's the kind of result you can get pretty quickly. Alright, so the data panel breadcrumb. So just to help you with navigating around, if we open up the data panel up here, this behaves the same way as it does in Windows Explorer in your address bar. So if you click on these arrows, you get to see all of the folders at this Sydney level. If you click on Sydney, it's going to take you to the Sydney folder and so on. So I just want to jump to the clamp folder and open up my clamp. And to continue on from that rendering theme, if you create a motion study, which I'm not going to go into today, but if you do create one, then if you select one of the kind of pre-rendered thumbnails in your rendering gallery in the rendering environment, you have the ability to render out a motion study. So it pops up this motion study dialog. You choose which motion study you want, because you might have more than one in your document, in your design, choose your quality and your image size, and then it will send it off to the cloud. It's going to use your cloud credits to render the animation. It's pretty powerful, and this is the kind of result you can get. Yeah, so well worth a try. Okay, so assembly joints. This is one of the areas that new users can struggle with, and one of the core points of joints are the joint coins. Now, the little kind of tunnel-shaped cutout in the center there has meaning. The line aligns with the x-axis, and the arc points towards the positive direction of the y, and then the z is normal from the coin in relation to the x and y axis. So the coins need to align, and by default most of the time they do. So yeah, you can create all these different types of joints. They all define movement, don't restrict them, although you can add restrictions to the joint itself. And an important part of creating the joints is you have to specify where that joint coin goes, and so you can snap to a number of different objects and nodes on those objects. Often you want to be able to pick a hidden node, but it's occluded by another object, and so when you mouse over there, it tries to select the face that's at the front of the view. So to lock that selection, you'd hold down Control. As you can see, there's a whole bunch of different nodes you can grab to define those joints. And then between two faces is an important option to know where to access it. And again, it's in the context menu. So I thought that clamp was opening. I'll show you how to use between two faces. So I'm going to come in here and delete that joint there, and now this is free to move. Okay, so I'm going to come up here and create a new joint, and as I move over here, you can see it's snapping to these connectors. If I wanted to pick up on this endpoint here, it'd be hard for me to do. So if I hold down Control, then it keeps that active, and then I can snap to that coin. But I don't want to. I want to grab that one there. And then to get between two faces, I'm going to select that, pick these two faces, then I need to choose a node to snap it to, and it projects whatever node you select to the midpoint between those two faces. So I'm going to pick that there, and I'm going to choose a revolute. Stuff that up between two faces. There we go. I royally messed that one up, so let's do that again. Delete joint. Let's move this out to make it easier to select joint, and we're going to pick that point there, and we're going to go to between two faces, between that one, and pick up that node. And there's the revolute. Okay, done. So now our joint is complete. Alright, so if you go to the insert drop down, you can go to the McMaster-Carr website within Fusion 360 and search for components. Now there is tons and tons of content on this website. You can go through and use all the filters to choose, to narrow down your search. Once you've found the particular part you want, you can select the part number, which exposes the product detail in there you have the ability to choose your file format and insert that file into your model. Now I recommend the step option. It's a good all-round third-party file format. And then you can just use joints and move and position everything into place as whatever suits you. Alright, so imported data. There's a few different ways of doing it, and it doesn't matter which way you do it really. If you import an IGES file inside Fusion, then when you open it up you might notice some weird behavior when you're trying to do modeling commands or CAM. Odds are, and I haven't seen a situation where it doesn't do this yet, that all of the faces have come in as individual surface bodies, and you'll see that if you expand out the bodies folder, you'll see an unstitched folder. So to fix that up, you need to switch over to the patch workspace and use the stitch command on the ribbon. Select, in this case I just selected the unstitched folder, which input and then added all of those surface bodies in one hit, and then just click OK and it turns it into a solid. So you can either upload through the data panel inside Fusion 360, and that will insert it straight into the folder inside a project that you want. And when it does that, it automatically creates a Fusion design from that. But you may want to keep a record of the original third-party file format, and to do that you'd upload via the web. But it doesn't automatically create a Fusion file because it doesn't really know anything. It doesn't want to make the assumption that you're using Fusion. So when you're in the data panel inside Fusion, if you tried to open that, it will just open it up in the web browser because it's a third-party file format. So you need to right-click on that file and create a Fusion design, and then you'll be able to start working on it. You don't have to upload files to be able to open them. So you can open certain file types. So IGES, SAT, and STEP are the three most common third-party file formats, and also Fusion archives. Now this works in offline mode as well. So if you've got some files that you need to open when you don't have an internet connection, as long as they're in that format, then you can do that. Alright, some miscellaneous stuff. So it's often handy to create some eye candy, not only because it looks cool, but because it does a good job of communicating the way your product works. So in the same way as how you excluded components and bodies from cuts inside the extrude command, you can do the same thing with the section command. So once you create a section view, you can edit it and go in and remove bodies from the cut. Then you can create a projected isometric view from that section view and create the kind of view that's displayed on screen here. If you work with customers or suppliers that need your models, if maybe an architect, they don't want and they don't need the level of detail that you may apply to your models as a manufacturer. All it does is bog down their models because of the size of the types of projects that they're working on. And there is a simplify workspace inside Fusion, but it's kind of hidden away inside the simulation environment. So you have to switch to that workspace and go to simplify. And there are heaps of tools in there, but just the remove features tool is really powerful. And you can go through and remove all the holes and the fillets and the chamfers, and you can manually select stuff and then delete them. But when it comes to exporting that data, if you use a normal export command from the file drop down, it will just export your normal file. To export the simplified model, you need to right click on your assembly in the browser and choose export from that context menu, and then it will export the simplified model. Alright, so there's a whole heap of awesome content on YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel. If you just search for Australia New Zealand CAD CAM, you'll find the ANZ CAD CAM channel. I've got a bunch of videos on there. I've got a whole series making a fidget spinner. I know it's a good example. It covers a whole bunch of bases, and it goes through step by step right the way through to the end, and even how to toolpath it if that interests you, and 3D printing as well. But the adoption panel that Autodesk have put together is actually pretty damn awesome. There's a video for every tutorial. There's video content and written material, so it suits lots of different people, and it covers all the different aspects of Fusion. So if you search Fusion 360 adoption portal, you'll find it, but that's the URL there as well if you want to check it out. Alright, and then there's also an app store. There's heaps of apps on there, both free, cheap, and more expensive. Just go to apps.autodesk.com, switch to Fusion, and just have a look through. There's some really handy stuff and some pretty clever things on there using the Fusion API. And then last of all, contact CAD Pro. we've been using Fusion for years, as I mentioned at the beginning, and we're also an authorised services provider on the new Autodesk Service Marketplace, which launched yesterday, as you saw in the keynote. So we're pretty proud about that. Yeah, you can go to cabpro.co.nz to check out what we're all about. Thanks for coming along today. I hope you got something out of that. If you've got any questions, I've got some swag to give out to the people who ask them.